So here is Donna's budget. Donna?
Okay. So the top two lines are the assessor and the assistant assessor's salaries, and those are reflecting last year's rates for the reasons that Paul just explained. If you notice the part-time employees and then the full-time employees lines, both have changed in opposite directions. What I'm doing is taking a full-time employee that is in 2026 budget and moving it to a part-time line in the 2027 budget. So that's the explanation of the increase on the part-time employees. And as we get down to the full-time employees, you'll notice that decreased. The Board of Assessment review has gone up, and that's because we are anticipating in 2027 to have additional members. You know, that's an item on your agenda for the next town board meeting. We'll have that discussion at that time. But my budget needs to reflect this. So this is my best guess right now based on trying to anticipate what you might be deciding. So I may ask to come back and revisit this line before you finalize the budget, depending on how that conversation goes. But we do anticipate having a larger than normal interest in grievance in 2027. And so we're trying to budget those wages accordingly. And that's what is reflected here that you see. I'm not asking for any capital purchases for the year 2027. And other than that, most things I think are pretty well stabilized. The contractual services line is going down because we have been crafting a particular custom software that should be wrapped up this calendar year. That would just be like maintenance going forward for the 4,500 on the line marked 0.40024. Appraisal and legal contractual expenses below that has decreased because I had included some appraisals in the 2026 budget. And so there will be fewer of those, I hope, in the 2027. And that's a decrease as well. The reassessments is the largest difference in lines between 26 and 27. That reflects that we will be paying our revaluation contractor a full 12 months in 2026, and we will not be paying them a full 12 months in 2027. The $83,000 will disappear in 2028 as far as our current plan is going. Legal consulting is going up just a little bit to reflect the fact that we anticipate having more people interested in the grievance process and filings going forward, and maybe some extra appraisals and time for our counsel for the Board of Assessment Review and our office. And everything else is pretty stable. Oh, the car that we have is going to need a little repair. It's time for brakes and things. We have done nothing but an oil change with it since we purchased it 3 years ago. So it's going to be time to have some maintenance items on that. So I'm just forecasting that for you. Do you have any questions for me?
No, it's a pretty significant decrease, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Well, the decrease is just a function of the assessment and being done paying for the services, so.
If you saw the 25, you would see that the 26 is the high year. That's the spike year. And I'm coming back down closer to normal, and it'll go down. I anticipate it would decrease a little bit further next year just because that 83,000 would diminish if not go away.
Okay. In any event, it's nice to see the budget go in that direction, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I'm the liaison to assessing, and Donna worked very diligently on her budget. She always does, and used a data-driven approach to come up with the estimated hours of potentially how many revaluations might be grieved and how long each of those, discussions take when they come to the Board of Assessment Review. So I think that, while that number may adjust, she definitely put some work into coming up with that number. It wasn't just a shot in the dark because she thinks it's going to be higher, or we know it's going to be higher.
Yeah, it'll be definitely higher than previous years. But one thing that makes our department a little bit unique is that it's all reactionary. We can't predict. The highway department may know how many miles they need to pay, for example. I do not know how many people may want to grieve and the expense that's going to put on our staff and our time and our wages and things, or how many are going to file in Supreme Court and how many we're going to need to defend at that level, and that affects the attorney's line. Everything that we do is reactionary. So it's just our best guess based on past practices and anticipating a flux in the schedule.
So is that impact really on the Board of Assessment Review line and the legal consulting line is mainly where that comes through?
The Board of Assessment Review line, the reassessment line, and the legal consulting are a reflection of the revaluation. The consulting line is a software.
Yeah, I just meant the grievances. The
contractual line.
It's just those two then. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
I'm just thinking a little bit more long-term, and I know we're getting slightly off topic, but just with regards to a reassessment, reevaluation in the future, is there some thought being had about a potential schedule just to mitigate some of the kind of shock? I know it's been 20 years since our previous one, just to kind of set ourselves up for future success.
Yes, there is. If I can remind you of the memorandum of understanding that was recently signed by the assessor and the supervisor in the state of New York. In there is a paragraph and there's a schedule laid out. And if I'm remembering correctly, it is by January of 2027 that I would need to put together a plan and give it to the state of New York for a cyclical assessment. And if the board wishes to fit into their funding schedules so that we would routinely get some funding back from them. And I know that that is the topic that we're talking about here, but before you get all excited about those dollars, it's really small by comparison of the expense because they're paying for that across the state. And it does depend and fluctuate. It depends on how many municipalities are doing revaluations that particular year as to how they can apportion it among those municipalities. So there would be a cyclical plan. And then the goal would be that we could work that into having a municipal consultant such as KLW or a couple of the others. We could always go back and have another company quote for us the a la carte menu. Maybe we just need them to help us with one particular thing. Sure. But this year going forward, we know that everything needed attention. We won't be needing to review all of that going forward in the cyclical plan because we will have laid out that plan to say, how are we going to take this cycle of years and what will we do on each of those potentially off years to get ready for that on year? Mm-hmm. And that's that type of plan that needs to be laid out. Honestly, being so busy with the project in front of me, I have not quite worked out those details. They're just back burner ideas that I have at the moment. So I will bring that forth to the board at the right time.